Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
Hello and welcome to episode 119 of CPG Vibes. I'm your co-host, Alex Baer, sporting this beautiful BevNet shirt that I got about 6 months ago. Wade, how's it going, buddy?
Going well. We got through that the intro, and we're off and running. How are you?
Doing really good. That intro, that music just gives me goosebumps, since I remember watching and by the way, that music will never make it to Apple Podcasts because it is copyrighted, so that's the only time you'll be able to hear it. But I remember watching Terminator 2 in the theater when I was like 12 years old, 11 years old, and I just remember it scared the living shit out of me when I was just like front row with my dad looking up at these huge robots shooting lasers. But it was cool. It was a great movie, obviously. But yeah, did you ever see it in the theater, or did you check?
Not in the theater, just at home. Just at home.
They got to re-release that thing on IMAX for sure. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yep. All right. So this is our first edition of the Expert Series. It's Volume 1. We're going to be talking about AI in CPG, which is a very hot topic right now in general. And we're going to bring on a couple guests in the next few minutes, including Angie Westbrock with Standard AI. She's the CEO of Standard AI. And then Brad Avery, who is a senior reporter at BevNet, but is an expert in AI and has reported on it and done podcast episodes about it. So we'll be getting into that. And if you have any questions for our guests, make sure to put that into the comment section. So a few laundry list items. And I'm going to preface this that don't want to jinx it, Wade. Don't want to jinx it. But computer issues have been happening. Probably need to get a new computer. And so I may cut out. If I do, Wade is going to have the honors of carrying most of the show. So let's see.
Actually, I was speculating that this is AI related. That the issues are, so we're going to count on AI to get us through whatever this is. So
let's hope so. Maybe halfway through the show, half my face comes off and I look like the Terminator. We'll see.
Like the little poster that we had. So yeah.
Unpredictable. Yes. The show can go any direction. All right. So we are the number 1 rated CPG podcast in North America. Thank you so much. Make sure to give us 5 stars by going to Apple Podcast. If you'd like to be a sponsor on our show, there are sponsorship and block rates starting at $3.50 for one episode. And you can do multiple episodes and save 5, 10, 15, 20% by being a sponsor. And we'll mention you 3 times, beginning, middle, and end, and also bring you on the show, which you'll see. We have our sponsor today, Blackbird Foods, which is a vegan pizza and vegan wings company expanding quickly. And they have a crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine that I helped them with. So they are our weekly sponsor for today, and they will have a prize worth over $60 to win pizza and wings. So we'll talk more about them, and we'll bring Emmanuel on shortly as well. We have a Slack channel, cpgvibes.slack.com. Make sure to join that. Go there, request an invite, and we will approve you. And then we also have our ongoing sponsors, which is V-Driven and Range Me. So a little bit about them. So V-Driven is a leading consulting and brand management firm specializing in strategic guidance and brand representation for emerging and mid-sized CPG brands, offering services from direct sales to key natural retailers, CPG accounting, deduction management. They deliver tangible solutions for brands, and they have a special deal, 25% off the first month of service. They have a ton of different a la carte menu of services, from accounting to sales to marketing to general CPG guidance. They do it all. Luke Abbott's a CEO, and you can schedule a call with them, and Wade will throw that into the comments there on the screen. And then our second ongoing sponsor, which there's a nice QR code there in the bottom right corner, is for Range Me. So you can literally scan that QR code. That is AI generated, everything's AI, right? We're just going to refer to AI this entire episode to be on theme. This shirt was AI generated. There's no logo on here. We generated it for the show. So anyway, and we look especially beautiful today because of AI. So Range Me, they're a little bit about them. They help brands drive awareness and engagement with retailers through an easy-to-use platform that has more than 15,000 category managers, buyers, VPs of purchasing that are on there. Everything from Costco to Kroger to Albertsons to Lazy Acres to Erewhon, Whole Foods, Sprouts. They're on there. And listeners can get a discount on Range Me Premium and Pro subscriptions, which includes direct product submissions to retailers, which, Wade, that's from your experience, that's pretty huge to have direct submission.
Absolutely.
You get Nielsen IQ data and even in-person meetings, Joe Turnowski, ECRM. So for more details, go to rangeme.com/blog. You can take the blog out, just /CPG vibes. So there you go. All right. So anything else we have?
The only thing you missed is the YouTube channel, which I just put the link up.
Yes.
And
Perfect.
we're up to 70-ish of our
That's
previous
cool.
episodes there. So
Nice.
yeah, we're rolling along there. If you missed an episode or want to go back and see something we aired previously, you can check it out there, or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So if you want to see us, go to YouTube. If you want to hear us and not look at us, go the other route. That's it.
Sweet.
I think you nailed it.
Yep. And we got the Venmo, CPG Vibes, if you'd like to donate money to help us continue to run the show. And obviously, our new time, which has been in effect for a couple weeks, except for today, is 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. All right. So we're going to bring on here, and I'm just going to get some non-copyrighted music here so that this makes it to the episode and we don't get sued by any, James Cameron or something like that. All right, so we're going to be bringing on Angie Westbrock, the CEO of Standard AI, Brad Avery, senior reporter at BevNet, and also we're going to bring on Emmanuel Storch, who is the CEO of Blackbird Foods, and here they are. How you guys and gal doing?
Great. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get this rolling quickly here. We have some questions, but before we go into all that good stuff about AI, we're just going to really do a roundtable of introductions. Introduce yourself, where you're from, and also, I always do this, Wade, kind of as a tradition, but one thing that we probably don't know about you, they want to share live for the first time. So, Angie. Yep, we call you off guard. We don't prep any of our guests.
That's not fair.
Ladies first. Ladies first.
First. Plus we're going clockwise, and you're the first. You're right there.
All right. Well, I'll start with the intro. Angie Westbrock, CEO of Standard AI, based in the Bay Area, and I've been with Standard for a couple of years now. We're introducing exciting technology, particularly focusing on CPG. So happy to get into that later. My background is the first half of my career, 15 plus years, I actually spent in CPG manufacturing. So I have this, what we call a non-traditional tech leader background, where I bring that experience and all of the learnings that I had from those times back working on supply chain manufacturing and all of those good things to this technology now. And I'm excited to be here today, talk about AI. Oh, wait, something you don't know about me. I don't know. I'm pretty transparent. Everybody knows everything about me. So I'll just say, born and raised in Ohio. So go Buckeyes.
Nice. Ohio guy right here.
I know. I heard one of your podcasts where you were stressing the Ohio State University. I went to University of Dayton, but I'm a huge Buckeye fan. So
right on.
It's a very safe share for Angie on
hey, look,
we didn't know about you.
Safe. I'll try to think of something later.
Yeah, we did put you on the spot there, but I'm sure, Emmanuel, I'm relying on you, buddy, to come up with something really juicy here about something from your past. Previous prime minister,
crimes you committed,
crimes, bank robberies. Something. All right, so Brad, you're up next.
I'm Brad Avery. I'm the senior reporter for BevNet and Nosh. And I'm also co-host of our new podcast, CPG Week, not to be confused with CPG Vibes. We take a bit of a different approach, but I've been doing that for a few months. And, I've been with BevNet now for coming up on 8 years, covering the food and beverage industry daily. And about a month ago, I wrote a pretty sizable feature for Nosh on how AI is disrupting the food and beverage industry, how brands are using it for a variety of purposes. That story's on Nosh. It's called They're Here. Nothing spooky about these real world AI uses in CPG. So I'm glad to be here, and something about me that you wouldn't know. Pretty deep into film actually, and a while ago I did actually do a pretty deep dive into sort of computer and virtual reality and AI themed films, just as a personal project a while ago. So if any other movies that aren't Terminator come up, definitely be ready to talk about those as well.
Excellent. Good
Great.
stuff.
Emmanuel.
Yes, thank you for having me on. So I'm from Blackbird Foods and I'm based in New York City. And at Blackbird, our main goal is to fix our broken food system with plant-based comfort foods because everyone loves pizza and wings. So we've set out to make the best pizza, the best wings that happen to be plant-based. And you can now find us in about 3,000 retail doors nationwide. And later in the show, I'll talk about our crowdfunding campaign. But a fun fact about me is that, or something people don't know about me, I don't really share this because it's a little embarrassing, but my dog is famous on TikTok.
Nice.
He has about 73,000 followers. And not a lot of people know that about me or my dog.
That's awesome. What kind of dog? What kind of dog?
It's called a Brussels Griffin.
Huh.
So, what's
the
name of the TikTok account?
So
you gotta tell us.
The dog's name is Bean, but his TikTok account is Mr. Benito, but Mr. is spelled out Mister. So
that's fabulous. Love it.
It's a little.
I feel like your follower count's going to go up by, or your dog's follower count's going to go up by about 4 or 5 after this episode, at least.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take whatever we can get.
Love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mr. Bean, so I'm sure I'll like Mr. Benito.
Exactly.
Benito, you said, right? Cool. All right. Well, let's get into it. And also, we're kind of again, this is live, so shit happens. But again, I think this is a StreamYard issue where we're not seeing comments and we're not seeing exactly who's logging in. So worst case scenario, if people are not able to load the show, obviously it's a resource on Apple Podcasts and Spotify where we get a lot of listens on there. But I think people are on here and we just can't see them. So, but we'll just roll with the show because Wade, there's no business like show business. It's what we do.
What we do.
We've had more adversity in the past where the show would just literally stop in the middle with like 6 guests on. So we've been through a lot worse. So we're going to go through some questions and just make a kind of roundtable discussion. We're going to really work hard to have questions directed at each guest, right? So we can get kind of different viewpoints, different perspectives on AI, because there's different skill sets here from each guest, from Angie and from Brad. So I'm going to start a question here. And ladies first, right? So, and then Brad, you can jump in if you want. What is your favorite AI tool thus far that's in like your front pocket and why?
Well, that's outside of anything that we've made, because obviously that's my Vision platform is my favorite tool for CPG. But I use ChatGPT all the time. It is, I love it. I reference it on a regular basis. I was just showing my husband this week. The reason that I love it is because I'm probably like master prompter. I think when you're a really good communicator, you can get more out of it than people realize. And so it really helps me to articulate and punctuate how I'm feeling about something. So I use it multiple times a day.
And what would you say, how like in a daily, in the course of the day, how do you use it? Like in what areas? Is it personal? Is it for your work or both? And if so, what does that look like?
Like everything. So I will use it for building slides for a deck to like restate something more concisely. I'll be just, I'm planning a trip to Italy in a couple of weeks, and I'll like ask for, imagine I'm a tourist with my children. What are the key sites that you would suggest hitting, and what would be some lessons learned? Like you can do all sorts of anything from personal all the way to professional. I think, we lots of times I'll tell it to answer questions to me from a perspective of a customer, for example, and lots of times, it's not always going to be 100% accurate, but I find that it helps to clarify or just help think through your thoughts. I'm someone who talks things out, right? So my team knows that I don't prefer to like read and do async. We kind of have to in these remote environments, but my preference would be to talk things out with someone to think through certain topics. And so I can kind of chat with ChatGPT on all sorts of various topics to think through and process information.
Love it. Love it.
All right, Brad, same question to you. Your favorite AI tool right now?
It's interesting. I, haven't integrated a ton into my workflow as much. In a sense, there's almost like I, as a professional writer, I kind of actively try not to use ChatGPT for those reasons. But I have found it, useful in my personal life for places, like I got married last year, and we used it to kind of help write our wedding website, get over that blank page hump. As far as uses in business, though, I think one of the most interesting examples I heard was actually something in the article that I wrote. There's a brand called Preem. It's a small startup. It's a functional pudding brand. And the founder, she told me how she, is a bootstrapped company, and she used ChatGPT to kind of locate a natural, I believe it was an emulsifier she was seeking, a stabilizer of some sort to fit all her parameters for being natural and gut friendly. And she was asking around in the industry, couldn't get any answers from anybody that gave her exactly what she needed. And ChatGPT wound up being the source that led her to the right path.
Makes perfect sense. I was thinking too that could be a kind of a comedy short where people use AI for their wedding vows, like you were saying. It's like you're saying it to your wife, or like we went out 367 times to this one restaurant from November 2016 to January 2024. No, I'm just kidding. So we're just going to go through, and I think Wade, I'm going to toss it over to you on another question to keep this rolling. So let's do it.
Yeah. So we started with Angie, so let's start with Brad this time. What free services are out there now that CPG brands can use for their brand, and how would you advise them or recommend them to get started if they're not using something like that already?
Well, I just mentioned that example of ChatGPT there, and as far as I'm aware, there's plenty of platforms with, say, like image creation that you can sort of spitball ideas. I think if you don't have the money to be investing in branding just yet, in design just yet, you can sort of try to get a visual sense if you're not an artist yourself. Where I think there's sort of cautions, though, is, as Angie alluded to, is like you got to double check that everything like ChatGPT tells you is accurate. So like you always have to double check that it is giving you the correct information. You can't take anything it puts as gospel. We've seen this coming up in courtrooms where they've been using ChatGPT for legal briefings, and it just comes up with a totally imaginary case to cite. And then judges don't like that, actually, if you're a lawyer and you cite an imaginary case in your filing. So it's stuff like that you have to be cautious of. And so when you're using it, if you're using it for brand development, for idea, spitballing, you need to always confirm what it tells you, but it can streamline that process very quickly.
Gotcha. And Angie, obviously we want to talk about standard AI, and we will, but from a free standpoint, somebody that's just getting started and maybe reluctant in this realm with AI and some of the things we're talking about, how would you suggest they kind of dip the toe in the pool and move to that next area and become more comfortable as far as that goes?
Yeah, I mean, all the things that we're talking about are really tools that have been enabled by generative AI, and these large language models, and there's lots of tools even besides Chat GPT. I think there's lots of tools out there to help with your image creation, as was mentioned, or also even creating slides, like just becoming more efficient in your day-to-day work. And that is where I think, if you're not, it helps you get used to it, helps you understand how to leverage it, how to incorporate it in your daily life. But that's been the real transformation from like our teams, how we work, thinking about what tools you can implement to make your teams more efficient so that they can dedicate their times toward more, value added activities. And so I would just encourage everyone to embrace it, explore it, test, learn, try. There's still, I think, some fear out there, and you have to be careful. I mean, anytime we're introducing a new tool into, for our team, we definitely loop in our IT team. We look at security. That's really important, especially if you're using it for work-related activities. But for the most part, you can use them in a way that is both secure and helps to just be much more efficient with your day-to-day.
I do have a question, going back to going off what you said, Angie, and also what Brad said. That example of the court trial, right? So let me just X that out. So with a court trial, like, or something like that, where someone's depending on AI, Chat GPT, you enter something in, the answer comes up, and then a human being needs to look at that answer and say, is that the right answer? Does that make sense? Did Chat GPT misunderstand what I was asking? Like, how far do you think we'll go? This is a question for anyone, on relying on Chat GPT, and how much human involvement will there continue to be when like trying to find an answer or some information on there? Like, we don't want to go too far to where we're just relying completely and trusting it, but there's going to be human involvement. How do you see that progressing as Chat GPT keeps going?
I don't see it right now as being a research tool. I think that's probably a bad use case, in my opinion, just because of known hallucinations and things. It's not meant to be that. And it's not like a Google search engine where it's giving you the back support for what it's answering you. And so, we see this with, there's a lot of questions around students and how they're using it to generate original ideas. To me, that's where it just starts getting into this area of, you're probably going to get burned if you're trying to use that tool to generate original content that you're claiming as your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's great at helping to accelerate or like rewrite more concisely. Like, that's what I love about it. I mean, I'm someone who has always read an email. Doesn't matter who it's going to. I read an email 3 times before I send it, at least. And when now I can sort of just brain dump what I'm thinking in there and have it write it back to me concisely. That's just using my own words in a better, more efficient way. But, my advice is, like, it's not ready for, claiming original content as your own. And that's why, that's where people have these like pretty embarrassing moments when they're trying to use it.
Exactly. And the only other thing I'll say, and then I'll go to you, Brad, because I know you have a thought on it, is I like the AI in LinkedIn, where like you write something out, you might be in a little bit of a hurry, and then it just dresses it up and makes it a little more understandable, a little bit cleaner, and then anyone that's reading it is going to really get it right away. And that's where it's helped me. So it enhances, right, from your origination, from your idea onto paper. Brad, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's very useful for organizing data sets as well. Something like that, where you can sort or summarize something pretty handily. And yeah, I think pointing out it's not a good research tool. You shouldn't be necessarily asking it to do research for you. I think it can be a bridge. It can help you if you're stuck, if you're lost in direction. It can help break you out of that. But then you kind of have to go take the rest of it yourself.
Makes
Fact
sense.
Yeah.
Fact check. It's a fact check. Yeah, exactly. You just want to make sure what you're putting out there in the world, it's in ink on the internet, so you want to make sure that it's accurate and well said. I want to I want to
A good
pivot it.
example, though, on that, real
Go
quick,
ahead.
is
Sure.
there's been warnings about be careful if, for mushroom foragers, if people are buying books on mushroom foraging off of Amazon, to be sure that they're not AI written, because the AI, it's a type of example where people are flooding the market with AI written content and not checking it. And so mushroom foraging seems like an obscure hobby, but if you're someone who's like, oh, maybe I'll get into that, it could very well tell you, to eat something that's poisonous. And so that's sort of an example. That's an obscure example, but it's something I've seen come up a few times, particularly as in some ways the market has not caught up yet to the technology that is now available.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Interesting. So, a question for Angie, and then also Manuel. We're going to get you in on this AI stuff as well. So thanks for being patient, and I'm sure you're working on some emails here as well in the background because he's a CEO, right? He's busy. So with Standard AI, right? And Angie's a CEO of Standard AI for people that are just tuning in right now. Talk more about what you guys do, number one. And then number two, the question I have is, how will retailers continue to use AI for increased visibility in stores, which ties into what you do? Because it's very fascinating talking to Angie a couple days ago on exactly what you do. And it's mind-blowing from a visibility standpoint in retail.
Right. So when we talk about standard AI, it's computer vision. And what that means is that we're leveraging the security cameras that are, if you're using modern security cameras, our partners Axis, and we deploy our algorithms to process all of that input, all of that data in a way that humans just can't do. So where historically you would take, humans trying to review thousands, millions of hours of security footage to try to get some sort of insight from what they're reviewing, we can do that almost instantaneously. So what that means and how that can completely make us rethink what happens in a physical store is the way I talk about this is like, let's think about e-commerce. So years ago, when Google Analytics introduced all of the, to e-commerce, where now I can see where people are clicking, where people are hovering, what they're putting in their cart, what they're taking out. None of that has been available to us in physical spaces. So we know traffic count typically, and we know transaction log. So most loyalty programs, anything that's about customer segmentation is really down to post-transaction data. And what we're able to provide is this really exciting, like rich information around what the customer is doing when they're inside the store. It's completely anonymous in terms of our tracking. We do no facial recognition. We don't do any customer demographics. And, but we can tell you now we're starting to think about, okay, not just traffic, but impressions. On your product in the shelf, how many people actually stopped, looked at it, and were engaged with that product. And now you can start to think about product placement, how consumers are behaving in an aisle. Are they buying from in aisle? Are they buying from the end cap? Like what is actually engaging and drawing that customer in? And all of this is delivered in a dashboard that's easy to consume. And so we just started introducing this product a couple of months ago. It's very exciting for us.
So a follow up to that, Angie, before we go to Manuel, from a standpoint of if I'm a retailer, right, and you have that dashboard, how much of that is customizable at the retailer level? I imagine there's kind of like some blueprint like that you have that kind of works for everyone. But then how do you adapt it to retailer specific needs to give them maybe some more above and beyond what the normal out of the box version is?
Exactly. It's completely customizable. So I was speaking really on how I think CPGs are going to leverage this tool. But what's exciting is there is, if you can see it with your eyes, then we can train our models on it. So there's other aspects of it, especially for a retailer, like as simple as planogram compliance or out of stocks, and being able to, first it's about observing an out of stock, but then it's about measuring lost sales while that out of stock was occurring. I call this ground truth integration. It's the operator in me from the days where I was, trying to predict what our schedules were going to look like based on Excel spreadsheets that were incredibly flawed. And that, like, knowing what's actually happening at the ground level and what's happening in that physical space in order to interpret those sales better is what is going to change the way that we think about it. So from a retailer's perspective too, anywhere from, and also loss prevention. I mean, Standard AI started as an autonomous checkout company. So we've been around for 7 years, and we talk about how we solved the hardest problem first, because when you're transacting using autonomous technology, you have to be able to, track everyone in the store, every interaction, identify every product, and operate at 99% accuracy because you're charging the customer for that product. And as we started looking at all of the capabilities with this technology, we were thinking, wow, there is just endless applications for how we can leverage this technology in a way to drive ROI across both retailers and those really interesting shopper insights that we can provide to the CPG companies. And, I'm really excited. We're starting here, which is really just like, how do you digitize the store and just start surfacing this data that's never been available before? But then you can quickly start thinking, well, what does that mean in terms of what in-store promotions might look like? And how can I start thinking about getting, we can start, if we know where someone is standing in the store, there's all sorts of things. If they're standing there too long, they might need help. You might be able to anticipate where they're headed, so I think those endless possibilities, and I'm notorious for kind of getting ahead of myself on where it's going to go. But that's where I just immediately start thinking about how this has the ability to completely change how we think about physical retail and give tools and data that our, delivery and e-commerce teams already have. And It's been a disadvantage for physical stores for a long time.
Right. I know, I've seen some test versions, in early stages with regards to exactly what you're talking about from a standpoint of planogram compliance, measuring out of stock, how long it's out of stock, measuring lost sales with the out of stock. And then obviously the operational piece is holding stores, if you're a larger chain that has multiple locations, holding stores accountable for those measures, and being able to go back and look at that service level lost sales, in stock, planogram compliance. If they're, a lot of times in the retail world, one of the things that stores like to do is spread out on items to cover up holes so that, it looks like the shelves are full, and this kind of holds them, kind of between the lines to make sure that they're in a good place. So excellent. Love it. Yeah. Great stuff.
And I'll jump in, and then we're going to get a question over to Manuel, who's been super patient here with his Instagram famous dog. So TikTok, same thing. I'm just kidding. As you can tell, I love social media, right? So InstaFace, is it InstaFace or is it My Face or what is it? So when it comes to this is mind blowing, right? This is mind blowing. What Angie's talking about as far as the direction of where this is going. Because, like, imagine, I've come from the brand side as well, running Genius Juice for 10 years. That imagine you run a national promotion, right, at 500 different stores. And maybe this is 10 years down the road or 3 years down the road or who knows, right? And you can get visibility at the top 10%, top 20% velocity stores. And you can get data that says, of the people that picked up your package, 70% put it back on the shelf, 30% bought it. Some people turned it around to look at it. Other people bought this competitor right next to it. When it's on sale, more people bought it, or more people noticed it and picked it up. This is, when you're on the bottom shelf, it was like this. When you're on the top shelf, is like this. So getting like real retail insights is mind blowing, because right now we have very, like, as you said, Angie, the only visibility we have is fill rates, pretty much, like delivering to the store. and then what goes out the door, right, through the checkout machine. So increase visibility to see, is this actually working? And then also from a packaging and marketing standpoint, if someone picks up your package and you have 95% of people putting it back, that's an issue, right? And you have to change something, because now you know that people are going up to your package and they're noticing it, and the sale is working because they're seeing the yellow tag, but they're not putting it in their cart. Why is that? And you start asking deeper questions on what you can do to improve your velocity and sales. Emmanuel, so going to you on this, I mean, it's weird, but also exciting, right? That you can get this level of insight. How does this all strike you? Where do you see it benefiting you and your business on a day to day? Being in, I think you said, was it 4,000 stores, 5,000 stores at this point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, where we've been using AI the most, as you all alluded to, is mostly through ChatGPT. And it's really helped more, I think, at least for right now, um, in current practice. We haven't really seen much use in getting store level data. I'm sure that will change really soon. But what it does help us with is cut down on a lot of the busy work that a lot of our team, which is especially for startups, we have small, scrappy teams with not a lot of resources, where, when we're doing sales outreach, we would spend hours or weeks generating lists of restaurants around the country by just Googling different articles and compiling it all together. Now you can go to ChatGPT and say, generate a list of all the vegan restaurants in the US for me and their addresses and phone numbers, and it will populate it in a matter of seconds. So that's one way we're using it. And then one recent way we've been able to utilize it is, we're looking into getting into Canada, which requires bilingual packaging. And instead of asking questions and different people how to do that, you can ask ChatGPT, and it will actually generate a bilingual nutrition facts table for you and ingredients in French and English. So those are the main ways we've been utilizing AI recently. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to see how it's integrated more into the retail level platforms and getting data from stores and how consumers interact with your products at the store level. I mean, that would be huge, because we often do demos where, we'll contract out 50 demos across different stores in the US, and we don't really get much data other than maybe some handwritten notes we get. But if there's some sort of AI integration where we can get exactly what feedback people are giving, how many people are walking by, taking a look and walking away, or checking it out, what they're looking at, what catches them out to them, what calls out to them from the packaging, those are all really useful insights that we would love to have.
Yeah, I can see Costco. We're going to go take a pause to mention our sponsors here, but then we're going to go to you, Brad. You've been super patient as well. But I see that also as a big Costco play, right? And Costco is really on the lead. It has been for many years on the leading edge of innovation on supply chain logistics, where you can send them a pallet and within a day or two, it's in their warehouse, right? It's in their stores, right, to buy. So I love what Costco does, and they do. Obviously, when you launch into Costco, you do a roadshow, typically,
Mm-hmm.
many roadshows, and then you do demos, which is typically through a third party, to get insights on the demos. How many people are trying it, what they're saying, are they going over to the pallet where your product is after trying the product in the store at a demo station? Like, that's priceless data that can help you. So taking a pause, now we're going to go to Brad with another question, is just to mention our sponsors here. So we have our weekly sponsor, which the man that was just talking, Manuel Storch, CEO of Blackbird Foods. They have a campaign running on Start Engine, which you can just Google Start Engine Blackbird Foods, and you can invest in them to be a shareholder in their company. And they have vegan wings and vegan pizza, which is mind-blowingly delicious. And you have a new one, right? Is it spinach mushroom, I believe? Is that the one?
We have a new tomato veggie pizza, which is a
Tomato
cheese
veggie.
variety, and we are about to launch 2 new wings varieties, which are Thai chili wings and Texas barbecue.
Perfect. And we're definitely going to go more into detail about that. And then we have our ongoing sponsors, Range Me and also V Driven. V Driven offers a range of services a la carte to help CPG brands grow and prosper, and also save money and cut down on those pesky chargebacks, which we all love, right? And then with Range Me, they are a service that has 15,000 buyers on their platform, and they're really here to drive awareness to brands and engagement with retailers through an easy-to-use platform. And again, mention CPG Vibes when you go to rangeme.com/CPG Vibes or go to VDriven, and they will give you a discount on your first month. So, Brad, question for you that we're going to go back to here is packaging and branding. This is always really fascinating to me. I've heard John Craven on the podcast talk about this, and Ray Latif talk about like generating packaging, and so what are your thoughts on what's the best? Are there what do you have recommendations for AI softwares to generate packaging? Concepts, logos, how much should you rely on this? Do you really still need a full-time agency designer if you have AI for packaging design? Tell us more about what your experience has been in that area.
Well, there are platforms that are, attempting to sort of put a way to generate packaging design pretty quickly. There's one that I spoke to for my article called Pietra, Pietra, and they are trying to allow users to generate anything with AI, clothing, labels, and packaging, and then send it through to get manufactured. Connect them with manufacturers who could then say, yeah, we could do that for you. Place an order, you get it all done, one stop there. I'm not necessarily immediately aware of exactly if there are AI image generation programs that are going to perfectly create a label for you. I don't know if we're there yet, because there are still, and even some of the best AI image generators, are still issues generating text. There's issues with artifacting and perfect image creation. So I think this goes back to what I was saying at the top, is there's still that human component that it's going to take care of. I see it in some ways as a little more of a sounding board. And I also think there's an element of human creativity that you have to consider as well, that AI is still not going to be able to generate. I mean, the AI can generate what you put into it as much as a prompt, and you can adjust based on that, but you still sort of need someone with that creative vision in order to provide that for you.
Yeah, very well said. Angie, what do you think about, packaging creation, AI, how much to lean into it? Just any thoughts or feedback on that?
I agree with everything you just said. I think it's just not to be repetitive, but it's a way to become more efficient. I don't see it ever being able to replace humans that are doing this, because the human is the one that's sort of generating the entire concept and idea. What I think it will help do is accelerate testing and learning and iterating, right? And so, now you can sort of ask it to generate a few options for you to kind of see and compare, and then you can go deeper with the final choice and using real design elements that AI is just not going to be able to replicate right now. So I think, I'm excited about the use case and creative applications. I think it's going to help accelerate and just get, help creative people just work faster and more efficient. But I don't think it can replace, what those things that are, the unspoken creative geniuses out there that are just, can come up with concepts that aren't just going to be replicated by AI.
Here's an interesting example, because someone in the comments has pointed out that they said AI is good for synthetic imagination, creative imagination is a different story, and I think that's a good way to put it, because AI can't really generate its own ideas. It necessarily. It's kind of giving you. It's building off of what the ideas that you put into it and what it has been put into it. humans are capable of abstract thinking. I wanted to kind of just see for myself, ChatGPT. I put a test to it and I asked it, start writing me like a paragraph, but every 4 words, just change the subject completely, interrupt the thought to change subjects. And so I was like, it'd be like, hello, my name is, water is very wet. The ocean is in, change the subject. It could not do it. It could not interrupt itself to kind of create that type of abstract thought that a human can. I don't know why you would write that, but I could write that. ChatGPT apparently in its current form cannot.
Right. It's funny how something so simple stumps the machine, right? Just the abstract thinking. And yeah, I mean, when you look at it, with ChatGPT, I've asked questions, right? Like, what packaging would be great if I were to create a probiotic soda or a canned water? And it kind of gives examples of it, but it doesn't integrate all the things that we see on store shelf when we walk into, like, you just, as a human being, you walk into a store, you see what's on the shelf, how it's selling, you talk to people in the store, what's hot, what's not. At least right now, ChatGPT and other AI platforms cannot really focus in on what would be the exact best direction to go with packaging design based on what's happening in the market. And not only what's happening from a data standpoint, but what's to come. And that's the other thing that I posted on LinkedIn about is you cannot underestimate the gut of an entrepreneur that's like, you know what? I'm tired of all the sodas. I'm going to create a probiotic soda that is really not on the market right now. And boom, $500 million 7 years later. AI can't do that, but it could definitely enhance as you're creating it, right? And perfecting it.
And something I just wanted to point out is I feel like we've, at least I've spoken a lot about sort of the free platforms or the more accessible platforms, but there are still some sort of gatekeeping elements to really making the most of AI in the sense of you're not going to get some of these data insights through ChatGPT, and one of the big barriers to entry is you do need a lot of data to really get the accurate insights. So one thing that I focus a lot on talking to companies, and companies like Pepsi are using this as well, is recipe generation, formulation, and optimizing their R&D. But they do that by having massive data sets that they can input and say, like, here's every single ingredient that we have tracked. Can you now find the needles in the haystack to create, we want a perfect raspberry flavored soda? Can you find the needles in the haystack to do this? And so it streamlines the job of a formulator. And companies like Blue Pacific are making big use of AI to do exactly this. But it doesn't, you ask it to create its own flavor, it's, maybe it'll come up with cotton candy. But it's not going to really wow you necessarily, at least not right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's like part science, it's part data, part gut. I feel it's a combination of both in a way.
That's where I was just going to say, I think that's where our technology comes in to help then give feedback on what's working. So I go back to this ability to test and learn in a way that we haven't before, because, there's too many times where you might do a packaging change and not see the result that you expected, but maybe it's because you didn't recognize the seasonality impact, or they just did a reset. And in the first trial, you were right next to a key brand, and then turns out they moved it. And so, when you can start to normalize your expected conversion rate based on impressions, so that when you do introduce new packaging, you can truly see almost instantly whether you're getting the traction that you want or not.
Yep.
So, what I think is going to be super interesting is the applications for our technology, especially around innovation. And, yes, it's always going to be really interesting to see those consumer habits around these like very known established brands. But what's more difficult is introducing a brand new product and being able to plan and try to predict in some way how it's performing, and to get your supply chain stood up when you do have success. And to, the fastest that you can know that and start to be able to increase your production, the faster that you're going to make sure that you can, when you do have success, that you're going to be able to perform.
Exactly. I think it's just one thing I'll mention is I see AI as more reactive than proactive. I think that's like, to me, what it boils down to, where you put something out there and you can get immediate data, like we were talking about, Angie, whether it's retail, whether it's online, whether it's what's going on in the industry, and you can get a sense more quickly to help you be more efficient and help save money. Because I would bet that if you I laugh about this because I take these real world examples. If you typed into Chat GPT in 2017, I want to create a brand of water that says liquid death. It has the word death on it, and it has a skull, and it looks like a beer can. If Chat GPT was around back then, it would be like, do not do that, because you're going to scare away consumers and they're going to think it's beer and it could get pulled from the shelf.
It'd probably scold you. Yeah, it'd probably scold you and say that's not a good idea, because it'll do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Brad,
I can't talk about death. That's violence. Like, you can't talk about that.
Yeah. So, Brad, we'll go to your quick thought, and then we're going to go to Emmanuel, and then we're going to wrap up the show. But you had something you wanted to mention?
Well, I wanted to say, as far as predictive insights go, I mean, you can get predictive insights out of it if, again, you optimize the data set for it. But let's say you're a retailer and you're trying to prepare for the upcoming weather. So you can track the weather data with AI, and it will start factoring everything else. So last summer, you had a big rush because there was a heat wave. So you're thinking, I need to buy X cases of lemonade to prepare for this heat wave. Well, with the AI, you can also track all these other metrics. It can track travel and tourism in this area up or down this year so far. Is this heat wave going to be longer or more intense or less intense in a certain way that might affect sales? You can optimize for that, but again, you have to have the data set and the tools in order to do that. So those predictive insights will be possible and available, and some companies are already using them in that way.
Makes perfect sense. All right, so we're going to pivot over to Emmanuel here, just to talk about your product and your raise on Start Engine, and then we're going to also do a prize. I know we're having some technical challenges here on the show where not everyone's able to make comments and other things. We have a lot more people on the show that are just viewing it and not able to make comments, but we do have a prize here, and I'm pulling it up. I don't know, Wade, if you have this more locked and loaded than I do.
Yep, I've got it.
Cool.
Yep, we are giving away a Pizza and Wings variety pack, which is one pepperoni pizza, a margarita pizza, a supreme pizza, the new tomato veggie pizza that he referenced earlier, a buffalo wing, and a Korean barbecue wing. Estimated value roughly, let's call it $70. Let's round it up and say $70. And
sounds good.
Good stuff. And I think we have the link here, and if I'm not mistaken, Manuel, correct me if I'm wrong, when you go to blackbirdfoods.com, the crowdfunding is right on that page. It's a pop-up as soon as you go to this website. Am I correct?
Correct. And you could go directly to startengine/offering/blackbirdfoods. startengine.com/offering/blackbirdfoods as well.
Excellent.
All right. Anything else you'd like to mention about your product in the couple minutes we have? How it's made, where it's made, where you're at in retail?
What really makes our brand special is that we're based here in New York City, and we got started because we wanted to bring New York style pizza to the masses that was also in a plant-based form, and integrating sustainable sourcing and agriculture into our manufacturing process. So we have our own factory here, which is very unusual for food CPG products. Everything is usually co-packed. So we really care about the quality of our products and getting it into the hands of consumers. And all of our pizzas are hand tossed, made with an overnight rising dough. So it's a real pizza dough. Our wings are hand battered, have crispy outside, tender inside, comes with a packet of sauce to drizzle over to get that real restaurant quality experience. And as we mentioned earlier, we're in about 3,000 doors and retail doors and 300 restaurants nationwide. And we launched a crowdfunding campaign with the help of Alex to help fuel our growth. So listeners can go to startengine.com to learn more about Blackbird and our campaign and invest for as little as $249.
Cool. And they're at 60,000 already. And this, recently launched and on their way to 100,000. So make sure to get on there and invest. The growth trajectory is pretty insane. They've sold over 1 million pizzas. They have 188% retail sales growth, according to Spins. They also, I don't know if you mentioned, Emmanuel, because I zoned out a little bit, is that you self-manufacture the product as well, which is huge. You have full control and visibility over the wings, the pizza. They have their own employees that are there in their facility making the pizzas that you enjoy. So, and the wings. And then before we give out our prize, which is going to be worth $70 rounding up with Blackbird Foods, our ongoing sponsors are Range Me and also V Driven. So make sure to go to rangeme.com/CPG vibes to check out the plans they have, and you can get savings and discounts on their premium and pro subscriptions. Then you also have V Driven with Luke Abbott, and they're a leading consulting and brand management firm, vdriven.com/schedule-a-call. I'm going to get on Luke to make that a little more simple. But those are the two landing pages, and mention CPG vibes. Okay, so we're going to get into the prize here. Now, I know ironically, we're having tech issues because of this AI episode here. That's just impeccably good timing, right? So I do have a question, Wade.
Okay.
And then if no one answers, I have someone that we can get it to, because again, there's not a lot of people on, which makes it kind of harder for there to be a winner. But and we're running really low on time here.
Well, I was going to say, we want to make sure I'd say we want to stay in the 48 states and stay away from Alaska, Hawaii, and Canada for the purpose of the shipping aspect, because as much as we like our friends in the Alaska, Hawaii, Canada areas, I'm sure Blackbird would appreciate shipping it domestically and not paying that extra money would go elsewhere. So if you're listening, we're bow out of this one. We'll get you next time. All right. Exactly. What you got, Alex?
Yeah, when it's frozen and you're shipping it overnight or in 2 days, it gets expensive when you're going to Canada. But we do love Canada. So, I'm hoping Miles wins this because he's in California, right? So hopefully he does, and he's on here because he's been commenting. So the question is, what's the name of the TikTok account for Emmanuel's dog?
Oh God.
Is this for us to answer or for someone in the chat to answer?
Someone in the chat.
Someone in the chat. And then Rich just had a sad
I remember it.
face. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Rich.
Yeah. He's in Canada, right?
Yep.
I think you're referencing mostly him, I think, because he's been commenting nonstop.
Well, I don't know who. Again, we don't know who else is listening, so yeah.
Someone got it.
There it is.
There it is.
So Hugh, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, so it's Mr. Benito. Let us know where you're at. Hopefully you're in the continental U.S., because if you're not, it will need to be someone else. So make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. So any just kind of last things to mention before we wrap up the show. Again, ladies first. I'm going to go Angie, and then Brad, and then Emmanuel, and then we're going to put a bow on it, and coast into the weekend. So Angie, anything you'd like to? Yep, ladies first.
All right. Thanks for having us. That just would wrap up saying, excited about everything that's going to be happening with Standard AI. Reach out if you're interested on learning more, and would love to just hear from folks on what would be interesting to them and what problems we can solve.
Great.
Excellent.
And then Brad.
Yeah, I would just say, thank you so much for having me. And I'm continuing to do a lot of reporting and research into AI and food and beverage. If you're out there and you're working on integrating AI into your company, reach out. I'd love to talk to you, hear how you're doing it. And real fast, I just want to say that, if you're going to be in New York in about a week and a half, we have BevNet Live coming up. That is June 12th and 13th. And in New York City, I'll be there. So I hope to see you there. Come say hi.
Excellent.
Awesome. It's funny. Me and Wade were texting back and forth, like, make sure to mention BevNet Live in New York in June. And so you did it for us. And I will just echo really quickly. I've been to several BevNet Lives. I'm in LA, so I've not been to the one in New York, but even if you need to fly there, it's highly recommended. It's a great show. It's tons of networking, the showdowns. It really springboarded me into the CPG space. I'm so grateful for the BevNet team. John, Brad, right? John Craven, Ray Latif, the whole gang over there, Melissa Traverse. You're all just really great people that are heartfelt and really wanting to help anyone and everyone in the CPG community. So from the heart, thank you guys. And make sure to attend. There's still some tickets available, but it's selling out fast.
Yeah, June 12th and 13th. I double checked the date because I was like, better make sure I get that right.
ChatGPT, when is the BevNet Live event? All right. So, Manuel, anything you want to mention before we tune out for the weekend?
Sure. Thanks for having me on again. If anyone wants to try our products, you can find us in stores across the U.S., including a lot of Whole Foods, Target, Sprouts, Fresh Market, Earth Fare, and many more. Or you can order us on blackbirdfoods.com.
Right on.
Sweet. All right. So way to think that does it.
That's it.
And again, make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Please, 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 including all the guests here, even BevNet, please give us 5 stars. And then also, if you'd like to be a sponsor, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. And we'll catch you next week. We're going to be going again to our adjusted time ongoing of 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 3 o'clock Eastern, and we will see you there. And everyone have a wonderful and safe weekend. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.